Bloomberg Tech Asia is live with Shery in Tokyo and Annabelle Droulers in Hong Kong.
An exciting episode ahead with a robotaxi market, Annabelle, that could be worth $340 billion, according to Bloomberg Intelligence. And of course, not surprising, given the demographic changes that we're seeing, especially across Asia, an aging population, the lack of cab drivers, and some of those leaders could be Chinese names.
Yeah, absolutely. You see that real value chain starting to emerge now. You mentioned the Chinese names. You've got Apollo's, or rather Baidu's Apollo Go, for instance, WeRide, Pony AI in the US. There's Waymo, of course, leading the charge. But it's also the partnerships that are coming on top. Uber, Lyft, they're taking these robotaxi operations, not just in the US, not just in China, but to the Middle East, to Southeast Asia, to Europe as well. So that's really what we're going to be unpacking in this episode, because a value chain, new emergence or new rivals can emerge as well, but exactly how this whole thing is unfolding, what it means for the future of mobility as well. But take a listen.
We are about to start. Please make sure your seatbelt is securely fastened.
No driver, no small talk, just sensors, AI, and real-time data. They're not quite mainstream yet, but robotaxis are already revving up a global race. And the fiercest competition? It's playing out between two tech superpowers, the US and China. In the US, Waymo's leading the charge. Born out of Google's self-driving project back in 2009, it now operates in multiple cities, offering fully autonomous rides with no human driver behind the wheel. Tesla's also eyeing the robotaxi future, but with a radically different approach. No LiDAR, no radar, just cameras and AI. Elon Musk's vision-only strategy has sparked debate, but the company says this could help scale up its fleet quickly. Across the Pacific, China's contenders are multiplying. Apollo Go from Baidu boasts the largest footprint, operating in dozens of cities. Pony AI and WeRide are also expanding fast, each pushing the boundaries of autonomous mobility. So who's winning? It's still too early to call. Waymo has key operational advantages. It runs 24/7 in all weather conditions and is scaling up its fleet. It's even begun testing in Japan. But Chinese companies are expanding more aggressively abroad. With lower costs and tighter supply chain integration, they're moving fast and far. For instance, the cost of Baidu's RT6 robotaxi is just under $30,000. Waymo's Jaguar I-Pace, more than 3 times that. Cost efficiency could be China's edge in scaling globally. Interestingly, some US and Chinese firms are teaming up. Uber and Lyft have partnered with Chinese robotaxi developers to expand into markets including the Middle East and Europe. Still, robotaxis won't dominate overnight. BloombergNEF projects they'll make up just 1.4% of the global passenger fleet by 2040, but will account for 7% of total passenger kilometres, signalling high utilisation. The road ahead is autonomous, and while China is accelerating, the global race is just getting started. Well, Baidu Apollo's General Manager of Overseas Business, Halton, says the company's profitability is likely to soar after they're able to remove the human safety driver from their robotaxis. That's a milestone the company's already achieved across mainland China and in Abu Dhabi. News spoke to us about the markets that are driving demand for their robotaxi services.
I think the most right now is absolutely mainland China and the United States. Mm-hmm. And besides the two markets, Hong Kong is the fastest regarding the policy, also the infrastructure. Here we have very good infrastructure as well. And for the left-hand drive market, besides US and mainland China, I think, the UAE, they're moving very fast. They are quite ambitious. Both Dubai and Abu Dhabi, we are deploying. As for today, we have around 100 cars in both cities. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Abu Dhabi, we have already removed the safety driver from the car. And in Dubai, we are talking with local partners and also the local government to see what is the potential timetable for developing or deploying the fully driverless robotaxi this year.
The fleet size today, you're saying, is around 1,000 total for
much more than that.
Much more than that.
It's more than 1,000 autonomous cars, both in mainland China and abroad. I think Both Waymo and Baidu Apollo, we are the only two companies who provide over 1,000 cars in all the cities.
What does your expansion plan and your scale up look like?
We have already signed several legally binding contracts with different partners globally. Any single one of them is regarding thousands level of robotaxis deployment. I believe once we remove the safety driver from the car, the numbers of deployment can raise gigantically, right? Mm-hmm. Since what we are aiming for is the real autonomous driving is without safety driver.
Why do you think that Chinese robotaxi companies are the ones that are really expanding more aggressively abroad?
I think, as you know, for the taxi fare in China, it's much cheaper than the taxi fare in the States. So American is a very good market. Not only for Waymo but also for other technology providers. Their lack of lack of the drivers. They have a very huge demand, and also the policies is quite open and prove innovation. Right. For us, for example, in one single city, it's in mainland China where we deploy around 1,000 robotaxi there. The taxi fare is much cheaper compared with Hong Kong, compared with Tokyo and the States. And once we have already validated our business model there, which gives us much confidence to bring our technology and operation abroad, that we can generate profits.
With working with US companies, Uber and Lyft, do you see any risk of geopolitics coming into the equation as well?
From Baidu's perspective, we think both China and the US have enough ability and wisdom to overcome such kind of geopolitical problems or difficulties. So we believe, since we are also companies working for new technology, also for profit, for generating profits for both companies. So I think everything will be good in the end.
In Europe, for instance, do you see any concern also around a possible pushback from regulators?
Yeah, the regulators may hesitate at the very beginning, but once they come to China, they come to see what happened in one single city in mainland China. Seeing is believing. I think some of the misunderstanding may disappear.
What would the possible misunderstandings be?
They talked a lot about where we keep the data, whether we bring the data back to China or we keep it in a local data center. As I mentioned just now, we have already registered a new entity in Switzerland, in Europe. We are hiring local employees as well.
When do you expect to be profitable as a business unit?
It is highly related to the government approval of how fast we can be. From the technology part and operation part, we are quite confident that we can bring the such kind of autonomous cars to any single city, wherever the policy is ready, the infrastructure is good, and there are real demands there. But regarding the profitability, I think, it will take time.
So each vehicle can be profitable today? Each single unit can be profitable?
Just in several cities in mainland China.
Mm-hmm. Then what holds back the profitability in other markets?
Well, if you want to generate, positive profits from one single city, on average for every single car, you have to deploy a real number of cars there. If you just deploy 100 cars, it can never become profitable. So you have to provide some, real service to the local citizens there. You have to make your technology a part of people's lives. So demo shows cannot generate profits forever.
What do you think the next 3 to 5 years looks like for Apollo Go?
Well, from our perspective, we will do our best, try to work as hard as we can to bring this kind of new technology to as many places, as many cities or countries as we can. But of course, safety is always the first priority. Mm-hmm. It takes time for any city, for any government to build trust between the local citizens, the local government partners, and Baidu.
And coming up, are robotaxis about to take over your commute, or are they just hype? BloombergNEF weighs in next on Bloomberg Tech Asia. Analysts from HSBC say robotaxis alongside autonomous driving are on the cusp of a commercial breakout in terms of adoption within the coming year. Our colleagues at BloombergNEF, however, have a more modest view. They think robotaxis won't meaningfully reshape the global passenger fleet until the mid-2030s. Let's bring in BNEF autonomous vehicles and shared mobility analyst Siong-Hu Wong. Siong-Hu, so how large is the robotaxi industry expected to become over the next decade?
Yeah, so the overall number is going to be small. Today, I think we have about 4,000 robotaxis across the US and China. And if you do the math, that's less than 0.001% of the world's 1.4 billion passenger vehicles. By 2035, we do expect the number to rise to 6 million robotaxis. But that's still going to be, 0.4% of the expected 1.6 billion passenger vehicles. Yeah, so in terms of the fleet size, it's going to be very small.
So then what should we watch for as fleet sizes do continue to scale?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I think it's fair to say that the robotaxi industry has transitioned from being a science project to a commercial reality now. So as real businesses evolve, we obviously look for this scalability and profitability. So one thing that we're watching very closely right now would be the business models and the supply chains developing over the coming few years. Because right now we have companies that are vertically integrated, meaning they own and manage every single component of the business. They're asset heavy, and on the other end of the spectrum, we have companies that are just developing and licensing the tech, very asset-light companies. So it remains to be seen which business model is going to be the most profitable and most scalable in the years ahead.
Well, given the complexity that you mentioned when it comes to AI approaches in robotaxis, what criteria then could we use to meaningfully try to evaluate and compare different companies in this space?
Yeah, so here at BNEF, we do use 5 key metrics. So number 1 will be operation on public roads. Number 2, fare charging. Number 3, availability to the general public. Number 4, the removal of safety operators from the vehicle. And number 5, the ability to operate 24/7 in all weather conditions. So when we apply these standards across the board, we find that less than 10 companies, less than 10 operations today are just being fully commercialized. So it's still a long way ahead in terms of full commercialization. Now, Waymo is obviously the most advanced today, but as mentioned previously, a lot of the Chinese robotaxi companies are rapidly catching up. And in fact, they're the most aggressive when it comes to global expansion. Baidu, WeRide, and Pony AI, they're expanding to markets in the Middle East, Europe, and Southeast Asia. And Waymo, by contrast, is only focused on 2 international markets right now, in London and Tokyo.
Yeah, so then how do what we see from the robotaxi services compare with also traditional taxis and ride-hailing services as well?
Yeah, in terms of the market share by trip volume, robotaxis are capturing more and more market share compared to taxis and ride-hailing. I've seen numbers, market share numbers in the range of 21 to 27% for Waymo in San Francisco. In other markets in the US, it's typically in the single-digit range, less than 10%. Now, that said, the other important thing to point out here is the overall efficiency. And what we find from our research is that the overall efficiency for robotaxis today is not necessarily higher than your traditional taxis and ride-hailing. For example, Waymo robotaxis in San Francisco, they still spend like over 50% of the time roaming the streets without passengers. And when they do have passengers, the average ridership of vehicle occupancy is typically in the range of 1.5 passengers per trip. So those numbers are very similar to what we're seeing right now for taxis and ride-hailing vehicles. So definitely no step change yet, at least for now.
Siong-Hu, thanks very much for joining us. That was our BloombergNEF autonomous vehicles and shared mobility analyst Siong-Hu Wong there joining us. And as he said, expansion plans very much in focus, and that's what we're going to be talking about just ahead on Bloomberg Tech Asia. We look at where in the world you might be able to hail a robotaxi within the next year. That's as companies race to get their products on the road. More ahead. This is Bloomberg.
The robotaxi rollout is set to accelerate around the world, while American firms like Waymo and Tesla remain focused on deploying within the U.S. Chinese companies are aggressively expanding to new markets. Are robotaxis coming to a city near you? Let's find out.
The robotaxi industry may still be in its infancy, but competition is already heating up among Chinese firms. They're now planning to deploy thousands of robotaxis around the world over the next 3 years. WeRide is partnering with ride-hailing giant Grab to deploy their vehicles in Southeast Asia. They've begun testing in Singapore, eyeing rollout by the end of this year. Europe's also being targeted ahead of an expected easing of regulations by next year. Baidu's Apollo Go has partnered with Lyft to bring robotaxis to the continent, starting with the UK and Germany by 2026. And Momenta has teamed up with Uber for tests in Munich. But it's the Middle East that's emerging as the hotspot for robotaxis, with 3 of the biggest Chinese players racing to establish operations in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. We traveled to the UAE to take a look.
I'm here in Abu Dhabi, just about to board one of these robotaxis operated by WeRide and Uber. This is a GRX, which comes with more than 20 sensors, including LiDARs, cameras, and radars, helping it to navigate its environment. So we're here on our way to one of the destinations, part of WeRide and Uber's coverage area. As you can see, there's a safety driver in front of me, but his hands are not on the steering wheel because the car is steering itself. WeRide also has presence in Dubai, Riyadh, and Saudi Arabia. This makes them one of the front-running robotaxi players in the region. Other Chinese companies such as Pony AI and Baidu Apollo Go are also flocking to the Gulf countries. They like these markets not only because they can charge higher fares than at home, but there's also not as much public backlash yet. Many of the ride-hailing or taxi drivers working here are guest workers, so they have less influence on policies. This here is Dubai's first autonomous driving trial license plate, and it's been put on a model of RT6, Apollo Go's latest offering. I had a go on one of these in Beijing. It comes with voice controls, massage function, and reclining seats. We could soon see more of these in Dubai because the Emirate targets 25% of their trips to be smart and autonomous by 2030. Pony AI is also doing trials in Doha, Qatar, and WeRide is also doing testing in Riyadh and Saudi Arabia.
What we're focusing is where we can deploy the most number of AV fleet on the road, and to bring the benefit of autonomous driving vehicles to the local community. It's definitely much safer, more efficient. So if autonomous driving can help them to bring down those costs and have like less road accidents, it's definitely our mission for that to happen.
While US firms are almost exclusively focusing on their home market, Waymo has begun collaborating with Japan's Go Taxi app, using human drivers to help train its autonomous driving technology in Tokyo. They began testing in April. Japanese car makers are also getting into the self-driving game, with the potential of eventually throwing their hats into the Robotaxi ring. Suzuki is working with self-driving tech startup Tier 4, Toyota and Waymo are working together, and Nissan is working with UK-based AI startup backed by SoftBank, Wave Technologies.
You know, we have aging society in Japan. Many people will need some assistance moving from point A to point B, and this is where driverless technology can help.
I'm in a Nissan Ariya with the latest ProPilot system developed with Wave's AI technology. This car has level 2 autonomy, which means it can steer and accelerate, but still needs a driver to monitor the roads. Japan has strict regulations requiring a human on board to take over if needed. Full self-driving technology is still years away here in Japan. Nissan, though, is trying to stay ahead. It says the ProPilot system rivals that of Tesla's technology. It's already conducting driverless trials in the UK, here in Japan, since 2017. In China, it's partnering with WeRide in order to develop Robotaxi services. BloombergNEF says we'll see a Robotaxi fleet about 6 million strong on the roads by the next decade. And with many of these projects scheduled to deploy across the world in the coming year, the era of Robotaxis may be arriving soon to a city near you. With Linda Lu in Dubai, I'm Shery for Bloomberg in Tokyo.
So, Annabelle, that ride in that self-driving vehicle was really fun, but it really is based on true needs here in the Japanese society, right? Aging demographics, still the regulatory hurdles are very high, but the Wave CEO, for example, had real things to say about why this is needed in this market. Take a listen.
And I think that the range of autonomy will give consumers choice, but the benefits of robotaxis, of course, not just in urban areas like Tokyo, but think about rural areas where there may be no public transport or limited access.
Yeah, all emerging technologies have positives, like you just heard there. There are the negatives, and there's certainly concerns around possible job displacement from this technology as well. But at the same time, there's probably no perfect technology that exists, and robotaxis, we know, are certainly set to become an even bigger feature, in our future. But that's it for this episode of Bloomberg Tech Asia. Stay tuned next month for more.